Hi friends, my name is host Eric, and I'm the host talking with famous people, and also the person who's correct about things in the world, and who understands why and where other people are incorrect. A lot of people don't like that, but that's how it is. So I was watching this John Donahue speech here, which was interesting, and the message of which is meaning is the necessary component for life to be fully lived. There's all of these sorts of universalist videos, right? That try to present some universal understanding of life, the universe, and everything that will actually meaningfully encompass something that applies to everybody. But of course, what we learn in cognitive functions is meaning is important to some people and not important to others. And it depends on your cognitive function stack. I also watched this video called, basically it's Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity. And that's basically what this video is about. So Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity was, first of all, everybody underestimates how many stupid people there are. And second of all, that stupidity is unrelated to any other specific criterion. There's an equal proportion of stupid people among the wealthy intelligentsia as there are among the working poor. There's as high a percentage of stupid people among Nobel Prize winners as there are among regular store clerks. And he defines stupid as behaving in such a way as they cause losses to others without benefiting themselves. And he points out that bandits, those who benefit themselves at the expense of others, are at least predictable, and says that stupid people are more dangerous than villains. Because in this model, good is win-win. Good and smart is win-win. Good and dumb is me lose, they win. Smart and bad is I win, they lose. And smart and dumb and bad is I lose, they lose. So this is a very TE frame of reference, of course, for understanding stupidity. And it's not terrible. It's not a terrible notion. Of course, the problem is it's somewhat tongue-in-cheek, apparently, and regardless, it's difficult to determine benefits. That's the thing that ultimately is the problem with TE in general when it comes to thinking, right? When it comes to trying to come up with theories and stuff and arguments and so forth, TE has a basic problem, which is that it keeps trying to measure things in terms of impacts, but impacts are always going to be relative to your frame of reference. In other words, which impacts you see is entirely dependent on which impacts you choose to measure. Okay, so I decided to present a better, more accurate theory of stupidity with five components to it. I agree with him that everybody seems to vastly underestimate the amount of stupidity in the world. And it mostly manifests, and that is to say, everybody's guilty to some extent, more or less, of the fundamental attribution bias, which is that when things happen, it's because of intention rather than happenstance or stupidity. And all NI overreach comprises fundamental attribution bias generally. So, 2, stupid means engaging actively in ways inconsistent with function configuration. So, in other words, being an active participant in an area of life that requires attentional manners that aren't natively in your wheelhouse. And law 3 then is stupid is maximally harmful when it's people taking action in ways they aren't qualified to. So it's least harmful when a circumstance requires me to use SI, let's say, and it's not in my wheelhouse. Or it's least harmful when I choose to use some inverted feeling, let's say, and it's not in my wheelhouse. Those things that are internal don't they have a limited amount of, like the ripples outward die off quickly and don't, it's diminishing returns over time. Whereas when people are extroverting their wrongness, then they're actually dangerous. So we see people who are taking action in ways they aren't qualified to, which means like if I'm directing the order of operations and processes of how to do a construction site, you've got the wrong guy. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have good instincts about what the best way to pour cement is smoothly. So, that's like an SE thing where you take actions when you do take physical actions, you include the right amount of force, right? It's not too much, not too little. It's efficient, it's smooth. It's something you're attending to actively, the process of doing actions. So people who are well suited to that are going to do those kind of actions. People who are ill suited to give an action are going to be like the INFP worker I had at the Subway shop one time, who was obviously new and SE polar. INFP, INTP, one of the two. And he like opened my bread and was like, bleh, with both like his hands, like he didn't know how to use his hands to do something so straightforward as opening bread without using too much force. That's SE polar, right? So my point, though, in Law 4 here of Eric's 5 Laws of Stupidity is that people who take ill-considered real-world action are less dangerous than those who damage the marketplace of ideas. So the guy who's an INFP or INTP working at Subway is going to be misusing action in the world in a bad way, in a way that's not consistent with their wheelhouse or whatever, but it's not going to do really any harm. It's not very dangerous. Now, obviously, it depends on how large the scope of action a person is taking, but fortunately, those who are least qualified to take action in the physical world are least likely to take action in the physical world. And unfortunately, that means that the people who are taking action in the metaphysical world and are ill-qualified to do so are the most dangerous. And we can see that for sure. The most dangerous kind of stupid is Hamza, Yoshi, RT, OPCSJ kind of stupid. I was watching this a replay of a premiere, looking at the live chat, and I saw how Hamza was saying, but I know INFJs with great TE. Why should INFJs have to have bad TE? I know someone who's NITI who's definitely NITI and who has good TE. Well, first of all, the thing is, even if Hamza were right about this person, that they have NI and TI in their stack, all of Beta Quadra has NITI, and not all of Beta Quadra is terrible to TE. Certainly not all of Beta Quadra is polar, only INFJs are. And second of all, if in fact INFJs don't need to have bad TE, why do they need to have NI then? Why do they need to have FE or TI? Why can't they just be your grokking of what the type means instead of actually having any definition, right? So Hamza is what we would call a dissembler. He's trying to eliminate anchor points from which you can make meaningful progress, because he's probably NI fourth or possibly NI second. It feels very instrumental, and it could be NI eighth even. It could be ISTJ or something, I'm not sure. But regardless, he's trying to disallow symbolic reasoning to do its job without acknowledging or recognizing the fact that if we were to use his reasoning, that in fact INTJs don't need to have bad TE, quote unquote, or polar TE, then we can just have there's no reason for them to have dominant NI then. There's no reason for them to have FE tool. There's no reason for them to have, it's like, it just destroys the idea that we can map things when you're that kind of dissembler. Same with Yoshi. Yoshi's Perspectives, he's called. He's somebody who's unable to understand what I'm saying and unable to be honest about himself. Which means, because he can't understand and can't accept that maybe he needs to study a bit or work harder or be smarter or something, that maybe the problem's on his end, he projects his insecurities and instrumental NI onto me and tries to like Hamza, dissemble to some extent. Note that these individuals are all expressing their own insecurities, because you'll note that I only really get attacked usually about my opinions about introverted thinking. People don't generally disagree with how I describe introverted feeling or extroverted feeling. Extroverted thinking in this instance Hamza was challenging whether or not INFJs are necessarily going to fail the TE test and reveal their polar. Now, I've never claimed that the TE test is a definitive skills test that is incredibly telling about the polar in the same way that TI, NE, and SI are. But it is the case that you can usually eliminate polar by asking a few TE questions, asking about ordinalities. TE links to ordinalities. So it's the logic of causality, whereas TI is the logic of conditionality. Rational typology, again, trying to dissemble, which is to say, they're trying to use language to undermine the effectiveness of those who use it well, without really recognizing what they're doing. And we know it's the most dangerous kind because look at OP and CSJ. Who's got the most subs? And what are they doing? They're confusing the shit out of everybody, making it much more difficult for typology to be considered legitimate because they're just wanking their own nonsense over there without any actual good kind of thinking, right? They're saying a lot of words that are wrong. That is the most dangerous thing that can happen in the world. Why did the planet suffer from all this COVID bullshit? Because people said the wrong kinds of words. They may have been very smart people, but they said the wrong kind of words. They didn't say, here are the framework issues we need to discuss, like I did. Like where does the onus belong? What is the precedent? How much authority do central governing bodies have to proactively prevent potential harms, and under what circumstances? None of those framework discussions were had. There wasn't an available alternate narrative that was loud enough, which was, of course, let it run its course. Let go run its course. That was my narrative, but I don't have enough of a voice. And the reason I don't have enough of a voice is largely because people who have no business talking about things like RT, OP, CS Joseph, because they're not idea people and they're not good at ideas and they're always going to get it wrong. They're not, or Yoshi or Hamza. It's like these people are not qualified to do analytical philosophy. And they're attempting to do it, or they're attempting to talk about things that would require one to have already done analytical philosophy well. And as a consequence, they're just shitting in everybody's drinking supply. That makes them the most dangerous, worst kind of stupid. And it would be great if people would sort of wake up to this. That being stupid with words is the difference between a sane, just, fair, decent society and a horrible one. It's like, as I said before, another reason, why did this disastrous COVID nonsense happen? Because when asked why it shouldn't, Trump said, I've got a hunch. He didn't have the correct words to use. He didn't explain things. He didn't have the right reasons. And when we don't have the right reasons and people don't have the right narratives and aren't equipped with the right narratives, and or engage in active counter-narrative work, which is to say, trying to muddy the waters, trying to dissemble, just spreading abject misinformation, talking out of their ass because they're too stupid to recognize they don't know what they're talking about. Any of those things, that's where society crumbles. That's wherein Armageddon lies. When we destroy the capacity of language to constrain the behavior of people because nothing seems to have any weight anymore, because there are countless examples of bullshit for every example of truth, that's when civilization starts to crumble. So, be responsible, people. C.S. Joseph, O.P., I call upon you to shut down your channels. You're being incredibly irresponsible. Dave Superpowers especially. Incredibly irresponsible. You need to go online, acknowledge you're full of shit, and shut down your channel if you want to be a good human being.